Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Shallow Rising titled Remorse Code. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen off of YouTube. Apparently we got some big names in this one, including the former drummer of Lamb of God, Chris Adler. We've also got Tim Ossenfort, Alex Villarreal, as well as Taylor Brandt and Tim King. And we're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Remorse Code, let's go.
Check this out.
Viewer discretion advised. I mean, the production's phenomenal already. I mean, it's ferocious, isn't it? I mean, it's stunning. I feel completely spoiled as a listener with all the attention to detail into the little intricacies of it, but Carl Andrew Wayand as the director. No, that was fantastic. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Shallow Rising titled Remorse Code, where we're going to talk about a few things that I really appreciated about it, as well as some sort of constructive critique, and also just how just as a listener I felt about it. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think that this track is about someone looking at the tenuous relationship they had with another, realizing they were just never going to get the satisfaction of the other person, realizing the damage that they've done. So after working through it, they eventually kind of came to the conclusion that it just wasn't worth pursuing anymore, and they've just decided they're going to be anywhere else but where the person is. The suffocation, the pain that they went through, and not giving that person another shot. Yeah, I'd rather disappear than be controlled by you. So I think it's fairly easy to understand what this track is about after listening through it. I feel like a lot of people will probably be able to relate to this in one manner or another, hopefully not on the wrong end of that. And ultimately, yeah, just a really well-told story. I think part of what sells that story really effectively are the vocals. I think that not only do we hit the notes really cleanly, but there's this wonderful affectation to it where we just have this understanding of how to express those words and sentences and lines in a way that makes sense both for the subject matter as well as for the music around us. We're very, very comfortable in a head chest voice. We present ourselves at a professional level with full performance capacity, and we take precedence when we need to, whilst also, with the power, maybe the main or double tracks, but we also have call and responses with vocals on the sides and like the chorus elements and stuff like that. But we also have lots of interesting little melodies and tails to switch things up when required. We have legato and vibrato technique sort of lying down. We show both a kind of a duality between the vulnerability that we might be experiencing because of the situation we're in. And then in contrast to that, other points were a lot stronger with our messaging, which makes sense because we just want to let the person know they can't do this anymore. We managed to communicate all of that really effectively in a way that's compelling and doesn't overwhelm what's going on with the rest of the arrangement, which is quite busy in a really good way, which I'll talk about in a moment, but also in a way where it kind of meets it at its level. And so, yeah, no complaints about the vocals at all. Extremely well done. And the bits of vocal fry we have occasionally are fantastic there. We have great technique. So then it comes down to the actual instrumental performance. We're across the board, whether it's the keys to guitar, bass, or drums, throughout the piece are absolutely stunning. I say that without a hint of doubt in my voice. It's just tremendous. And I'm not glazing for the sake of it. From like a technical level, a proficiency, a songwriting level, it just, you are absolutely spoiled for choice with what you pay attention to, as well as how things are amalgamated. Even from the start with the kind of like the vocal the growls there, the guitar tone, the kind of reverse takes, everything in, you're immediately sort of presented or thrown into this world where you just don't know what's going to happen next, almost like you're going back through the memories to a point where you can finally discuss them later on. And you just have these wonderful kind of like clean sort of coiled guitar parts there where we're either tapping parts or we're kind of like things start like picking them. But however we're portraying it, it's more than just arpeggios of clean or sort of bar chords there. There's a sophistication with the kind of jazzy extended nuance of those harmonies there, alongside the drums, which meet it at their level and aren't too intense. And there's like staccatos and little kind of like short notes there. It's not just that we can play these notes and hit them cleanly, but we can also add our own sort of personality to them and kind of add a sense of stop, push and pull and movement to it outside of it kind of being let ring. When the bass comes in, it's got this kind of really throaty tone to it without being too overwhelming in the low end, and it harmonizes really neatly with the upper elements, working with those root notes whilst bolstering in other areas when required. And there's this really full-body distorted tone with the rhythm guitars that we have in the chorus parts where I think they, if I'm not mistaken, they revolve mainly around power chords. And you've got like a wonderful flow with the crash cymbals, the kicks and snares with the drums, as well as other little kind of finicky double kick bits. And we have these wonderful, really quick 30-second or triplet kind of like goes and little kind of bounces across the place, which are really cool. And it's just so tight as well. It's just so tight with that playing there. It's not something I hear that often because sometimes if you're not good at doing double kick, it just sounds a bit sloppy unless you're at this level. But there's just an interesting kind of contrast between the relative intensity of the hook sections with the various guitar layers, vocal parts on the sides and main, the bass, drums and the keys. And then like the kind of space and room to breathe you have there in the verse sections or the quieter elements there or the less intense elements there, where the kind of nuance of the storytelling occurs, where it's not only a production-based thing, it's also a compositional device, like an adjustment there. And there are these strings as well, which add a sense of drama and certain elements there. They're in the upper register, which is above those guitar and bass takes. and they complement the range of the vocalist in certain elements there as a kind of softer layer to add it. You know, like I appreciate those little things. And like there's this really tight tremolo picking palm muted part and like the 120 mark there, which is just in time with the kicks in a way that's just stunning. Again, it sounds like I'm glazing, but this is just really well played. I'm gonna try and be as reasonably succinct as I can be without this video being like half an hour, because it's so much good stuff to talk about. Because we're not just like sort of alternate palm muting with those kind of like melodies, we're harmonizing them with different guitar parts. We're forming chords and it's percussive because of the palm muting, but it also adds further color and contrasts with some of those softer elements alongside it. And there's this kind of charming music box element to certain parts of those choruses, which add a sense of kind of like the nostalgia, like a looking back, like a kind of twisted memory sort of aesthetic to the piece there. And because it's in the upper register and sort of shorter notes, they contrast some of the held notes you have in the other parts. I think the guitar solo that we have around the 2-minute 10 mark is really well voiced. It's an interesting solo because it's clear that they're really capable on the strings, but they voice it in a way where they're trying to make it more of a literal voice, I suppose. There's some really interesting work, the tremolo, where they kind of dip it a little bit and kind of add more of a kind of reverse, kind of bendy sort of situation there. And they kind of combine it with sort of really fast tremolo picked elements there to kind of provide a bit more sort of like fire to it. But it's just, we're keeping almost a sort of a box soloing approach to it, and parts anyways. It's just, there's so much to absorb that you kind of say one thing and then you listen back to it, oh, they're doing something different. There's a lot of range. And that other part there with the mixture of alternate autonomy picking plus the legato sort of like pull off techniques, it's just a great way to go down to it. It seems effortless for them. And that's, you know, in this situation, a good thing. You need that kind of speed to be effortless in order for it to sound good. And what I love so much is that those leads don't just stop in that solo section. They continue throughout other stages of it. And that's really important because it's just such an easy way of providing compositional diversity. You know, with the layering, you have that really cool sound. You can have more of it. Granted, you maybe don't want to completely take over the vocals and have two competing lead elements, but you can have it as sort of a sub layer, put it on the side there and add a bit more color and intrigue to it. And there's like, call them responses with like kind of growl, like kind of more fiery vocal styles of the screams, the growls, and it kind of fights back, and it's like it mirrors the intensity, the further kind of emphasis on the leaving at the end of the outro section. I love that we're kind of getting more aggressive as we go on. There's this kind of like crescendo overall as we go through it. I think we switched to normal time after that kind of halftime chorus, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but just that push forward means it kind of makes it sound like we're actually moving, not just with what we're saying, but with what the song or the music is insinuating. So it's great that there's chemistry there. And I think like the kind of the ascending and descending kind of arpeggios that you have on some of those higher range key elements there, the kind of magical synthy keys, they're really pretty and add a kind of sparkle to it that kind of amps it up. Whenever you add more to the high end, as long as it's not too sharp, it sounds like the music is getting higher, both literally and in terms of the perceived intensity. And it gets to a point where after everything I described before, including that, you can't really go much further, and the band ends it after that part, and which is just sensible. You're kind of being lit up by it. You go higher, 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 and then back down, and then you're done. And you've been just taken for a ride through the whole thing. There's even vinyl crackle around like the 0.30-second mark, like, or something like that. Like these little bits of production polish there that also work as songwriting devices there, almost like we are going back in time to discuss it. So I think I'm going to take a break from kind of gushing over the instruments for a moment. I'm sure there's stuff I've missed, but just the production in general is superb. To a level where I'm listening to this and thinking, how did they do some of this? How are those lead and rhythm guitar tones so clean? How are they getting the bass and drums so polished? It's like, it makes you question the way that it's really good. Like the fundamentals of there being no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum, music surrounding you in the headphones, you know, they're adhered to. There's dynamic range to this. But like the reverse takes that we had at the start, the little bits of sort of vinyl crackle, that's the general finding a space within the ether for everything across the cans. When there is a lot, like the fact that we have the do-do-do-do, and then the hi-hats and the cymbal patterns, and then you've got the vocals, like really, if things aren't mixed well, you get, as a listener, you get confused and you don't know that, but things can take turns as well. And like the use of like the sub drop as well at 257 or 258 with a whole bunch of power behind that, letting you know that the final frontier has been reached there, that growth, that acumen has been sort of absorbed. It's just, you know, I'm not sure whether this is like a family member or like a romantic relationship or something like that. Maybe the music box is inferring like when we were a child or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's just stunning. And I think, again, it's the niching of certain elements like those higher keys specifically and only in the higher register that just adds a kind of, it's just sensible. You don't want stuff competing with others for attention, and you don't want to build up those frequencies unless like it's better for it. But like they just, leveling's great. Dynamic range, the difference between quiet and loud is adhered to, but it's nice and loud without pumping. It's just the bus compression limiting is handled. I think this is one of the most professional sounding tracks that I've heard in quite a while. As someone listening to this, personally, outside of my review, I try to be non-biased during reviews. I do personally really like my metal. It's really, I enjoy music like this because I almost can turn my brain off with what I'm hearing, knowing that I'm in safe hands. It's just a feeling you get not only, you know, as a listener, when you hear something for the first time and you just hear, oh, everything's correct, sounds correct. The first 15 to 30 seconds is just a phenomenal impression. You just wish them all the best. So ultimately, both as a reviewer and just as a listener in general, I really enjoyed my time with this track. I think that this is a band I'd listen to more to. I would be interested to hear what other subject matter they discuss in their songs, but I feel like this is enough. And I think Remorse Code isn't too on the nose as a title, so I think that's also effective. But ultimately, that's my review of this track from an act named Shallow Rising, titled Remorse Code, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.